sunny night.
That's all I ask of
Say you'll share with me one love, one lifetime. Sa kabukiran, walang kalungkutan. Would it be
bring of gift to the land.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Soul webinar series. This is the 8th in our series. We shall begin with an opening prayer, followed by the Philippine National Anthem. So I'd like to call for the opening prayer our Soul Philippines prayer leader, Brother Lito Pardo, Elder of BCBP Las Piñas. Brother Lito?
Thank you, Brother Greg. Good evening, friends and countrymen. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we lift up to you our country and our people who have been suffering in pain and frustrated, more so during this time of the pandemic. We pray, O Lord, that we find comfort and sustenance not only physically, but spiritually as well. We lift up to you the plight of the poor, the marginalized, the downtrodden. May they be given proper attention by our government, by the private sector, and by civil society. We fervently pray, O Lord, that you bless our country with true servant leaders who can ably steer our country and empower our people towards a better future so that we can truly attain prosperity for all. Heavenly Father, may you continue to touch our hearts for us to fully understand the beatitude of mourning and suffering and find hope, strength, and courage from one another in the midst of great difficulties and tribulations. As we reach out to those who are really in need and are suffering most and minister to their needs. Father, continue to inspire us to be true Christians in our thoughts, in our words and in our deeds. May the 500 years of Christianity in our country bring about the true Christian values and principles in every Filipino and make our country a land of peace, justice, and prosperity for all. Father, all this we ask in prayer in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Thank you very much, Brother Lito Pardo. And again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 8th installment of the Soul webinar series. Soul Philippines is a nonpartisan civil society organization composed of parents who are business executives, professionals, seeking to rekindle the soul of our nation towards our long-cherished values of makadiyos, makabansa, makatao, and makakalikasan. Soul Philippines is partial to policies emphasizing inclusive economic growth, greater local autonomy, and people empowerment. Our webinars are practitioner and solutions-oriented and based on sound strategic policies. We also have as co-presenter the Public Policy Research Group, or PPRG, a think tank composed of eminent personalities including former legislators, cabinet secretaries, and undersecretaries, sifting through policy proposals and funneling the same for these Soul Search webinar series. Members include those who have already presented their various policy-oriented webinars, such as former Justice Antonio Carpio on the West Philippine Sea, former NEDA Director General Cielito Habito on inclusive economic growth in the countryside, Learning from the Learning Crisis by former Department of Education Secretary Brother Armin Luistro, Food for All by Feeding Farmers First by former Agriculture Secretary Leonie Montemayor, LGUs Crucial in Defeating the COVID-19 Pandemic by former Senator and former DILD Secretary Joey Lina, Modernizing the Philippine Health System for Universal Health Care by former Health Secretary Manuel Dairit, and last week, Climate Proofing Our Common Home by former President of the Ateneo de Manila University, Father Jose Ramon Jet Villarin, Society of Jesus. All of these webinars are available for replay at the Soul Philippines Facebook website. We would also like to thank the following also the Rotary Club Makati Central, headed by Mr. Ed Garma, also a co-presenter. And we have the following strategic partners to thank: the AIM Alumni Association Philippines through its chairman Robert Manabat and Vice Chair Michael Makatangay, the ICMA Student Chapter of the National College of Public Administration and Governance in the UP. We have the Rotary District 3830, thanks to Governor Chacha Camacho. And we also have a strategic partner for our designs, Indios Bravos Designs. Thank you, Jerry and Sherbet Manalili. And finally, the Alcacid Total Entertainment and Artist Management Incorporated, or the A-Team, for allowing us our guest soprano par excellence, Miss Lara Maiga. And right now, we would like to go straight away to the webinar proper. It is my honor to introduce our moderator for this evening, who will introduce our main speaker. The moderator is none other than former Senator, former DILG Secretary, and former Laguna Governor, Joey Lina. Senator Lina.
Maraming salamat sa iyo, Greg. Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. Kamusta na po kayo? Sana po ay ligtas kayo sa anumang karamdaman at kasama na ninyong malulusog ang inyong mga mahal sa buhay, ang inyong pamilya. Ako rin po ang tumatayo na chairman ng SoulPH's, ang siya pong pangunahing organizer nitong webinar na ating ginagawa. At ito nga po ang ikawalo na webinar na ginawa ng SoulPH's. At marami pa po ang mga webinars na gagawin tungkol sa mga pangunahing issue na hinaharap ng ating bayan. Sa susunod po na Sabado ay atin pong pag-uusapan ang pangangailangan ng internet sa lahat ng sulok ng ating bansa. Kaya ang title ng ating webinar sa susunod na Sabado ay Internet for All. Now na. Quote and unquote, now na. At pagkatapos po nun ay naka-firm up na rin ang susunod na webinar, yung pong mga tungkol sa mga manggagawa or workers welfare. Ano ba talaga ang dapat natin gawin upang mapabuti rin natin ang kalagayan ng ating mga manggagawa. At pagkatapos po nun ay pag-uusapan natin ang issue tungkol sa social media. Paano ba magtatagumpay ang katotohanan sa social media at paano magagapi ang mga maling balita o mga fake news at mga post na hindi naman batay sa katotohanan. At susunod po dyan ay pag-uusapan din natin ang urban development. Paano ba magkakaroon ng magagandang syudad at bayan na talagang ang trapiko ay maluwag at maganda ang kalidad ng himpapawid at ang mga tao ay nabubuhay na matahimik at mayroong pakikipag-unayan sa bawat isa. At susunod pa dyan ay marami pang paksa, mga 25 hanggang 30 ang webinars na inihahanda po ng SoulPH's. Kaya abangan nyo palagi ang ating mga anunsyo para sa ganon ay makasama kayo dito sa ating ginagawang webinar. Nang layunin ay talagang paigtingin ang pag-uusap tungkol sa mga issue na hinaharap ng ating bayan para malaman ng mga mamamayan kung ano ang dapat nilang gawin tungkol sa mga isyung ito at maihanda nila ang kanilang sarili, ang kanilang pamilya sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa ating pamahalaan para sa ganun sama-sama ang gobyerno at ang mga mamamayan sa paglutas ng mga problemang hinaharap ng ating bayan. Ngayon, ang atin pong pag-uusapan ay kung paano makakatulong ang bawat isa, ang gobyerno kasama na lalo, tungkol sa pagbibigay ng suporta o ayuda sa ating mga mahihirap sa panahon ng pandemya at pagkatapos nito na hopefully ay mabilis nang masolusyonan ang pandemya dito sa ating bansa. In English, the title of the webinar is How to Help Our Poor During Pandemic and Beyond. Alam naman natin, maraming problema at ating dinadanas ngayon, maraming mahihirap, maraming nagugutom at patuloy pa rin ang ganitong problema na dinadanas natin. Ang ating resource person o guest speaker to tackle this topic, how to help our poor during pandemic and beyond, is no other than my good friend and former cabinet colleague, a member in the cabinet, former Secretary Corazon Juliano DINKY or SOLIMAN or DINKY for short. Siya po ay well known as DINKY. Secretary Soliman is a social development practitioner with over 40 years experience of designing, implementing, and evaluating social protection and community empowerment programs in the non-profit, NGO, and the public government sector. Siya po ay skilled in coalition building and collaborative mechanisms in crafting the delivery systems of a program. Nako, talaga pong napakaganda ng kanyang credentials at tamang-tama na siyang ating pinili na ating guest speaker dito sa topic na ito. Kanyang pong leadership skills and style were honed by initiating and leading national coalitions of civil society organizations and coalitions of people's organizations, and by serving as secretary in 2 administrations of the Philippine government in the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Enhance her capacity by completing a Master in Public Administration at the Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University. Currently, former Secretary Soliman is the lead person for social protection and community-driven development of the International Center for Innovation, Transformation, and Excellence in Governance. She also has consultancies on community-driven development and social protection in Myanmar and other Southeast Asian countries. She also conducts capacity building workshops on the same subject and constructive engagement with regional civil society organization networks. She also serves as a resource person for multilateral institutions on the same subjects, and a board member now of Synergios, Global CSO, and is a member of Bridging Leadership Conveners. She's a graduate of College of Social Work and Community Development, Bachelor of Science in Social Work in the University of the Philippines, and has earned, as I already said, her master's degree in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Let's give a warm welcome to our guest speaker on the topic, how to help our poor during pandemic and beyond. Former Secretary of DSWD, Corazon DINKY Juliano Soliman. Take it away, DINKY.
Isang magandang gabi ho sa ating lahat, at sisimulan ko lang ho by looking at my screen and starting the share. I hope everyone can see the screen now. Okay. Isang magandang gabi sa ating lahat, at maraming salamat sa Soul sa pag-imbita sa akin, sa pagbabahagi ng aking mga pag-iisip at mga mungkahi kung paano natin tutulungan ang mga mahihirap during this pandemic. We know that during this pandemic, the one that has been most affected adversely by this pandemic had been the basic sectors, or the poor people, the marginalized, the vulnerable. And I'd like to start the presentation by providing you some data that's coming in from government, and also data coming in from World Health Organization, ADB, World Bank, just to give us a broader view of where we are in relation to this topic. So I'd like to start with showing you just a minute, I'm having there. Right now, given the global situation, more than 151 million had been affected by COVID, and more than 3 million have died. And this is World Health Organization data. Going to the Philippines, I'd like to draw your attention to the fact that we have reached the 1 million mark. In other words, we have more than 1 million people and growing still at this point. And this has really, I think, affected many poor families. In fact, I'm sure many of you know that in poor areas, there are people who are actually not anymore categorized as COVID-related, but actually may have been COVID, but because of the health situation that we are in, the health system that's not able to cope with the challenge of many of those sick, we are not able to give attention to everyone who probably is affected by COVID. And there are 17,000 deaths already recorded. Now, what has been the impact of this to the lives of people other than the health situation of those who were affected? Well, first of all, with the policy of government of having the strictest lockdown that in the whole region of Southeast Asia, we have seen the contraction of our GDP at minus 9.5%, which really means at this point, industry had been affected. And the effect of the industry is that in quarter, it was minus 13.2%. That really means the worst contraction after World War II. We've never had this kind of contraction. But what is the implication of this kind of contraction? Well, first of all, inflation average for the first quarter of 2021 at 4.5%, and it's the food inflation stood at 6.2%. What does it mean? It really means that food prices of basic commodities, especially meat and vegetables, rose. Tumaas po ang presyo ng mga bilihin, lalong-lalo na ng mga gulay at ng mga karne. But that really also means for those who have been able to keep some jobs, they're not able to buy anymore because their buying capacity had lessened. And anong nangyari doon sa mga wala ng trabaho? Lalo na silang nagkaroon ng malaking problema tungkol sa kanilang pagkuha ng pagkain. Dahil the employment rate based on PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority of 2021, unemployment rate is 8.8% in February 2021, which translates to 4,187,000 plus jobless Filipinos. In 2018, the proportion of poor Filipinos whose per capita income is insufficient to meet their basic food needs is estimated to be at 17.7 million. Now, if you add the 4.1 million Filipinos who lost their jobs, it will approximately be about 37 million people living in poverty. So imagine po ninyo kung gaano karaming tao yon. Dahil ang nangyari talaga, malaking dagok ang pagkawala ng trabaho dahil sa lockdown, dahil sa supply chain breakage, at dahil sa slowdown ng industry. So, bago pa mag-pandemic, malaki na po ang food insecurity sa buong mundo. So this is the data of UNDP for 2017 for the whole world. 821 million are undernourished in 2017. But if you look at Asia, 63% accounted for the 821 million, and 22%, or nearly 151 million children under 5 were stunted. Yan ang yung kondisyon bago nag-pandemic. So imagine now that this situation existed, aggravated now by the fact that the crisis came in where 40 to 85% of all food producing developing regions have been affected, yung small-scale food producers na nakakaranas na din po ng gutom. At ang epekto niyan sa mga magsasaka, lalong-lalo na ho sa mga nagtatanim ng mga basic food commodities, is that imbis na mag-ipon ng buto para makapagtanim po muli, kakainin na po nila yon. Which raises really the situation of a threat of food shortages. That really compromises goal number 2 of Sustainable Development Goal of ending hunger achieving food security and improve nutrition to promote sustainable agriculture. Kasi ito po yung severity levels ng food security. So if you're in the green, that means you have access to food, both quality and quantity. If you are in the orange, that means you're experiencing moderate food insecurity, and that your ability to obtain food has been compromised. And yung red, severe food insecurity. That means hindi ka na nakakakuha ng regular sources of income or regular way of making sure that your food needs are met. Anong direct implication yan sa atin? Ito na po yung huling data ng World Bank on our own situation. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that significant numbers of families still run out of food, reducing their consumption, lalo na ngayong ang nangyari itong COVID, na nako-compromise po ang health and has lasting impacts on cognitive development ng mga bata. So mapapansin ho ninyo yung mga changes talagang padami ng padami, at yung dulo natin, 56 to 59% na. In the last 30 days of December 20, they were worried about running out of food due to lack of money or other resources. Alam nila na hindi sila makakakain. Halos kalahati po ng populasyon natin. Ito ho ang isang DOST research na ginawa noong November 3 to December 22. And the colors represent ano yung thinking ng population and percentages. They worry about food, yung blue. I want to draw your attention to the bottom red, which is 3.2 and 3%, without eating for a whole day. Yan po yung mga taong nagsasabi doon sa research, yung nasa babang 3.2 and 3.0, ang kanilang sagot sa tanong ng Nutrition Assessment Survey, hindi po kami kumakain ng buong araw. Constant po yan sa ibaba, makikita ninyo. Whether it was GCQ, MCQ, or ECQ. Anong coping mechanism? Well, sinabi nga na 56% are having problem accessing food. So 22% of them said, hindi kami makabili kasi wala kaming pambili. 21% said, limited public transportation. 19.5% said, hindi kami may pera, nawalan kami ng pera dahil nawalan kami ng trabaho. And 10.8% said limited food stores in the area. And 5.1% said elderly or no other members to buy food. In other words, sila po yung mga pamilya na hindi makalabas dahil sila ay mga elderly, senior citizens, hindi pinalalabas, bawal lumabas, walang ibang makabili, kaya hindi po sila nakakakuha ng regular na pagkain. Yan po yung galing mismo sa DOST survey ito. Next to that, so tinanong sila, so how did you cope given the situation? So 71% umutang, on credit po ang pagkain. 66% nanghiram po sa pamilya, sa kapitbahay. Actually, yung purchase food on credit, parang ano ho yun, talagang alam mong babayaran yon. Itong 66%, alam mong pay when able yan dahil yan ho ay pamilya, kapitbahay, kaibigan. Yung 30%, bartered food. That means, meron hong ugali na may gulay ako, may bigas ka, palit tayo. Or maglalaba ako para sa'yo, bigyan mo ako ng 2 kilong bigas para makakain yung aking pamilya. But 21%, malaking number din po yun, ang ginagawa ay they reduce the amount of intake ng adults so that the children can have more. In other words, they eat less, the adult in the family, so that the children can actually have a little bit more than what they will be able to get if they all eat the way that they used to before this crisis had come. Therefore, so far, ang figures ng DOST, 48% of households did receive food assistance from LGU and other private sectors about 2 or 3 times since the pandemic began. So, and nakita din na increased frequency of ayuda was in high-risk areas. But if you look at the COA report for 2020, during the budget hearing in the Senate, DSWD admitted that they still had 10 billion pesos undisbursed from the social amelioration program. Na sabi nga ng mga senador, bakit hindi niyo yan napamigay? Ang sagot po ng DSWD, dahil yung listahan daw po ng LGU ay hindi not robust enough. They're not they don't trust, it's not complete, may mga kulang. But the effect of that is the 18 million families that were supposed to benefit from SAP 1 did not actually benefit. And for SAP 2, which is 14 million families, did not also benefit. They fell short of giving this number of families. Kasi malaki ho yung naiwan, 10 billion pesos. So, right now, as you all know, we have no Bayanihan 3, and what the government had given is 1,000 pesos per person for 4 members of the family in this ECQ that they declared. Given this kind of situation, and given this kind of data that you have heard from me, you really begin to feel that ano lang nangyari sa atin? Paano na yung more than half of our population are actually going hungry? Even SWS numbers are saying that. But this is already government data telling us that talagang malaki ang kakulangan ng access to food, and quality and quantity of food is a major challenge for a majority of our population or our families. So what do we do? First of all, I think po, to the question of how do we help the poor? I'd like to start that discussion by first bringing in a change of mindset. Pag sinabi ko pong change of mindset, unfortunately, marami pa po sa ating mga kababayan na ang pagtingin sa mahihirap ay mga walang silbi, na ang akala po ay ganun lang palagi, at meron pang mga nagsasabing kaya sila mahirap dahil tamad. Hindi po yun totoo sa akin yung pakikipagtulungan, sa aking pakikipagsalamuha sa kanila. In my whole work as a social worker, I have yet to meet a person who likes to stay poor. No one wants to stay in the streets. No one wants to stay where they are today in a poor situation. They want to change their situation. But there are structural and systemic issues that they were born into. So the first principle that always guides me in helping the poor is poor people can and will help themselves. And this has been proven many times, that they are active actors in community work and solidarity work. In other words, hindi lang naman ho sila nag-iintay. Kasi kung nag-iintay lang ho sila, marami na ho sana kanilang namatay. If they don't work, I keep saying, who wakes up the city at 4 o'clock in the morning so that when you enter your buildings, it's clean, so that you can go to office in a bus? And who closes all of that? So there is no point in saying that they're lazy. Of course, let's not be Pollyanna, maybe there's a certain percentage, but the majority of them really, really tried their best to earn a living. They are part of the solution, and to start the process of helping, we have to listen to them. We have to dialogue with them, afford them the respect and dignity that each humankind must have. And that's where I'm coming from when we want to help the poor. Because I think part of helping the poor is acknowledging their humanity, as well as acknowledging my own humanity of being with them in this special time of need. So what can be done concretely? What can government do right now for urgent and doable? The first thing I think is to pass and legislate Bayanihan Act 3. The Bayanihan Act 3 is now in legislation so that it can provide for ayuda to the vulnerable and marginalized. The 1,000 pesos per person for 4 people in a family will not do it. As you know, they said it was going to be a short-term ECQ or MECQ or whatever alphabets they're going to use. The point is we are still not able to all move out of our places and really revive the economy. So there is still a significant number of people who are not earning on a regular basis. So there has to be a more sustained social amelioration fund to be given, especially to the most vulnerable and marginalized. Now, to be able to do that, I think we really need to support government and to advocate government to organize and facilitate a robust targeting system for poverty reduction. It is very difficult, I am with all due respect to the government people who are here, it's very difficult to just rely, and my friend Joey will know this, on barangay captains doing the list. Because there are good barangay captains and there are barangay captains who are not so good. And that does not really work. And SAP 1 and SAP 2 had shown that if it is the barangay council, the barangay captains doing the list, it comes out with so many problems, from elite capture to money being lost, or to money not going to the right people. And the targeting system can be done in a month or 2 because there are already lists that exist and it just needs to be improved. Asian Development Bank had funded a national household targeting system, as far as I understand, for the last 2 years, and that has to be used. And they can work with the Philippine Statistics Authority to organize that. And I think this is a health crisis. And the health crisis will continue to be a health crisis if the vulnerable and marginalized communities will not be given priority in addressing their health needs. And one of it would be to have them vaccinated too. And that's the whole point of getting a herd immunity. Hindi na po natin nabibilang actually, sa totoo lang, ang mga urban poor at mga namamatay sa rural area na maaring COVID, kasi I still continue to interact with many community-based organizations, and I was just talking with some people, merong surge sa Surigao, merong surge sa Cagayan de Oro. So in other words, there are health needs that need to be addressed, and one of the solutions is really get the vaccination program going and make the vaccination program a priority for those who are most vulnerable, who are already hungry, who are already weak. And if you don't put them and build their immunity, they're most likely to be the ones to contract and die of COVID. And finally, I think substantial funds for small and medium enterprises to revive the economy bottom up should be provided. And the provision I would propose for, again, our partners in government, that this be given not as a loan at the start, but really as a subsidy. Because, you know, the small and medium enterprises really just closed down. I mean, the supply chain was broken. All of the sources that they was stopped, and therefore their capital had been kaput. So kung papautangin po natin sila, matatakot silang umutang kasi baka hindi nila mabayaran. But if you subsidize them, there is a big chance that it can be it can spur, it can catalyze growth. That is the urgent and doable I propose for government to consider. For the medium and long term, kasi sabi nga ni Joey, for us to start thinking about policies not just for tomorrow, but looking down the line. So for medium and long term, I would propose that we strengthen and expand the cash transfers program for the vulnerable and marginalized communities. What do I mean by that? There are several cash transfer programs already in existing before the pandemic. When the pandemic came, they started doing another set of cash transfers in addition to Pantawid, in addition to social pension, in addition to the support for yung mga labor na nawala ng trabaho. Now they've also began with farmers. Most recently, I saw news that they are providing for tourists, employees from the tourist industry. So these are all cash transfers that are being given, which I think on the medium term should be examined, reviewed, rationalized, and expanded so that it will cover not just the existing list, but the new poor. The new poor are the ones who, 11,000 people of ABS-CBN. People, the OFW have come back because no more jobs where they come from. These are the new poor in addition to the existing poor. And that what we need to do is really get a robust targeting system at different levels and rationalize the cash transfers that are being given. And as this is being done, I think our policymakers can consider establishing a social protection floor. That can be the basis of a universal basic income. Now, what is a universal basic income? It is a government providing for its citizen an amount of funds that is the basic cost of living for everyone who needs it. Now, this is very important because that means it's universal. So that means it's for everyone. It's cash, and it's going to be given to all of the people. However, I do believe that what we need to do is rationalize that in relation to the fiscal space. That's why it is important, I think, at this point, to begin the process of collaboration between the economic managers, the production managers, and the social services managers, so that they can discuss how to create the fiscal space for the social protection programs as the economy is being revived. Because we cannot continue providing cash transfers without the economy being revived. And therefore, that collaboration is so key in making this program really work. What was, I think, very important is to take a look at some of the examples that we've seen in other countries and how they develop the universal basic income policies, which really is moving from different modes of cash transfers up until the point that they can actually allow, and they can have rather, the fiscal space to be able to provide for 80% of their population a universal basic income. So that's a lot of analysis, data work. And I do know, I had been part of a discussion in the Senate. Senator Angara is seriously considering this, and they're actually working with UNDP and taking a look at the possibility of piloting it in the barn. And hopefully that's a start in the discussion of social protection floor, and universal basic income. So those are the points that I would like to propose with all due respect to our friends and colleagues here in government. I know that it's not, it's been a challenge, having been part of government before. It's the pandemic is a major consideration of collaboration of all efforts of government. But then I think what we need to do is really get the citizens believing and trusting again that government is doing the right thing. In the meantime, as that is supposed to happen or is being undertaken, there have been efforts also by civil society organization and private sector to work together. And this one initiative I'd like to share is that I'm involved in, which was started in March of 2020. A group of us who had been working together in different parts of our life and on the different parts of our engagement as development workers came together to see how we can augment, how we can help and provide for the gaps that existed at that time when the strictest ECQ was undertaken. So these are the foundations that you see on the other part of the slide. Sea Oil, Jollibee, Philippine Business for Social Progress. Help from Home is a group of millennials, the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, and so on, the League of Corporate Foundation, and community-based organizations such as Kasagana Ka and Samahang Nagkakaisa ng Pantawid Pamilya. We came together to do the following things: address food security and livelihood, and address community health. And what have we done so far? We have puhunan sa pamayanan, that is community-based, moving making sure that there is enough small amount of money to jumpstart a small business in the community. Project Karinderya is a small effort that we came together where those who used to have karinderya and the karinderya died out because there was no more puhunan, we provided the puhunan so that we could jumpstart it. And part of what they were producing was being given for free to 200 vulnerable families, and the rest of what they were cooking were being sold, so that means they could revive their business as a karinderya. Project Kariton is really the moving talipapa. Mask for All, we worked with sewers who lost their jobs, and they started sewing the masks, and we were giving that out for free, sponsored by corporate social responsibility groups from the foundations. And then, of course, in the first 3 months, we were providing food packs born out of the fundraising that we had done through Bayanihan Musikahan and the foundation supports from JGF, from Jollibee, from Sea Oil, from ABS-CBN, and even us today, we provide price aid. For community health, that means we are working closely with the Swilly Group in a local government unit so that we can help the management of pandemic responses in the community, which includes contact tracing, how do you do the mapping, how do you do the web grid so you know where people are. And that's being done with the local government of Caloocan as a pilot. And that really means, too, that we're working with mappers and young people who could do a web grid and really make the alert. This is where the COVID is growing, and so they will isolate that. That's the kind of work that they were doing. This gives you some kind of numbers about the project Karinderya. 300 Karinderya had been revived, and 6,400 had been given food for free para sa kanilang pangangailangan pang araw-araw. And for the puhunan ng pamayanan, it's really providing additional business capital that will support their existing livelihood. So it's not just karinderya. It could be that they were doing buying and selling of vegetables. It could be that they were producing some yung mga rags, yung mga pamunas. This is really to start the income generating from the bottom up again. And that's really working with the unbanked poor. Yung Project Karinderya is really working with the microfinance people. Ito yung mga hindi pa nakapasok sa microfinance group. And it's really reviving the economy bottom up, in that sense that you want them to be able to get the businesses going between and among the different communities around an urban poor area. Now, this is just one example of what had been done by organized NGOs and civil society organizations. I'm sure there are others like Rotary Club and so many other people who have done similar, if not even bigger things to be able to jumpstart the economy at the different levels in either a barangay or several barangays or a province in some in some islands. Kasi yung iba nating mga kasama sa iba't ibang isla, if they're trying to also revive their economy, especially those that were dependent on tourism, which is already now a dead industry for now at least. They don't allow tourists to be moving around because of this pandemic. But then you ask, so what do we do if I'm a private citizen? I don't know a CSO. I am not a CSO person. I'm just an ordinary citizen who wants to help. Paano ko tutulong? Here are some ideas of what you can do. And I think the most important and the most powerful that has helped us so far in regaining our footing, in making us see that there is hope for this country that has been greatly divided and greatly bombarded by negativities. And that is the community pantry. You can organize or you can support community pantries. I am in touch with Patring herself. There are about 6,000 of them already. If you're interested, you can go to their Community Pantry PH. That's a Facebook account. And you can see what has been done. What has happened to Maginhawa, for example, is that they had coordinated, because it has grown so big and so many are donating, they coordinated with the barangay and they are now a hub. So people go and donate in the barangay and that hub now services X number of smaller community pantries in the Teachers Village, UP Village, Sikatuna area. There are about 200 hubs already in NCR and nearby provinces, Bulacan, Cavite, that they are managing, and there are volunteers. They are already relating and connecting with farmers' organization. They're getting the gulay from them, and they're getting the rice. So it's kindness building on kindness, and just organically growing between and among solidarity groups in the different communities that had started the community pantry. So if you are interested to start a community pantry yourself, you can go to Community Pantry PH, and there will be suggestions on how you can start. And if you need, for example, you would want to have access to vegetables or access to rice or access to other goods, you can also work with them and get from their hubs. But the community pantry is open to all kinds of possibilities, and it can be done by you can do it anywhere, and you can do it whatever you think is useful. And I think that is important is that it's really up to the creativity and the willingness. I know of a group that actually they said they were children who started a community pantry of books, and the books were the ones that they were sharing with the other children in that community. Another thing that you can do if you are part of a gated community, or even if you're not in a gated community, but you're in a community where there are a number of empty lots, you can use it as a community vegetable garden. And from out of the harvest, you can either share the harvest between and among yourselves, which I've seen many of the poor people do, or you can sell it and then you can put up a community pantry. I think this number 3 is something that I'm really very passionate about. It's something that can be done. We have a cohort, and I'm sure if you attended Brother Armin's session, this cohort of people in public school, these children are really at the biggest disadvantage ever. And I think if we can at all help at least grades 1 and 2, you organize tutoring classes for young children with all the safety protocols being followed in your barangay hall or in your empty daycare centers. That's going to be a big help. Children are not learning. Children do not know how to read and write. One of the mothers, I was in a meeting with a community-based organization yesterday, Zoom. They were asking me, Ma'am, napasa ba yung anak ko o hindi? Hindi namin alam kung pasado sila o hindi. Grade 5 na ba siya o grade 4 pa rin? Hindi maliwanag ang sinasabi ng DepEd. Again, with all due respect to our friends in government, that's something that needs to be addressed. These are poor people who were relying on education as to get them out of poverty. And here we are now, unable to even assure them that their children have moved out of the grades that they are in. So as I think if you can organize small tutoring classes, in your neighborhood for young children, that would be a big boost to their ability to be in a cognitive in a situation where their cognitive development is taken care of. Another thing that can be done, and I've seen this being spread out, is that you support the small and medium enterprises in the neighborhood, that you buy, if you can, get most of your things from the neighborhood so that you really are able to catalyze the economy in the neighborhood. You can also adopt or support a feeding program for the first 1,000 days of infants and toddlers. And that's, as you saw the numbers that I gave earlier, the cognitive development is very much affected by the nutritional value that you have in the first 1,000 days. There are NGOs that provide for this type of feeding, like the Negros Foundation, the Mingo, which has Munggo. You can work with them, or you yourself can start making, nutritious food for people, for children in your neighborhood who can use this as part of the feeding program for infants and toddlers, because there's so many children who are not getting the quality of nutrition that is needed. And the first 1,000 days is so crucial. Another thing that can be done is that between and among yourself, you can organize a community-based contact tracers. Because right now, the contact tracing that's being done by government or the local government unit is so sparse for lack of people who can actually do it. But if it's really just a matter of making sure that this house had COVID and how many people have they been in contact with, there is a way of organizing it so that you can actually protect the neighborhood or the street without having to do a strict lockdown on it. And finally, I think it's also good to think about information dissemination on vaccination. There's so many misinformation about this, and those who can actually have information about it that will be useful, helpful for people to understand why it's important to be vaccinated is going to be a long way for providing the health needs of our communities of the poor, because they will be the ones who have to understand that they need to boost their immunities. So these are some ideas that anybody can do. Anyone can start, anyone can support, and it just takes a little bit of, shall we say, energy to do something positive instead of ranting and raving at what's going on right now in our country. I'd like to end by sharing with you my personal reflections on all of what's going on right now. If I can get my last slide. There. Sorry, there. My personal reflection on this is that we have been so divided. We have been so bombarded by negativities. We have been so, heard so much curse, so much hatred. We are into our echo chambers, not even able to listen, even among families and friends. So I think it takes courage to listen passionately with people who have different viewpoints or worldview from us, and to respect his or her truth. You don't have to accept it, but you have to respect it. But what is important is that we're willing to listen, because if we are willing to listen, then we can reconnect. And if we can reconnect to each other, to ourselves and each other, we can rebuild trust. And if we are able to rebuild trust between and among ourselves, we can co-create and collaborate a better world, a better Philippines. We cannot go back to the same old ways that we have been doing that led us to this pandemic. Because I think the pandemic is really a manifestation of the abuse that we have done of nature, of the abuse that we have done on each other, on the abuse that we have done on power. And I think right now, we're given the chance to rethink and recreate. But we can only recreate if we reconnect with God, with our good self, and rebuild our trust to each other. Then we can co-create and collaborate for a better Philippines. Maraming salamat sa inyo po at handa na po akong sumagot sa mga tanong niyo. Magandang gabi po sa ating lahat.
Maraming salamat sa iyo, Dinky. Palakpakan natin si Secretary Dinky SOLIMAN. Mabuhay ka. Napakaganda ng iyong presentation na ginawa. Pero bago natin basahin yung mga questions na 29 questions ito, curated questions even before the start of your presentation, Dinky, naipadala na ito sa amin. So 29 questions dito, marami pang comments sa chat box, no? But before that, I do not know if we have a prepared entertainment. We do have Dinky. Para respite ka muna, and then we will listen to a beautiful music coming from someone who has supported us all this time, and Greg will introduce this singer.
Thank you, Senator. Yes, we are lucky. We keep on getting lucky dahil sinusuportan tayo dito sa ating webinar series ng ating, I'm tempted to call her resident soprano, but we call her guest soprano. And we also thank the A-Team, the Alcacid Total Entertainment and Artist Management Group, for allowing us to enjoy her songs relevant even to the topic. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest soprano and songwriter, Miss Lara Maige. Lara?
Good evening, everybody. Hello, hello. Yes, I have prepared songs very appropriate for tonight. But for my first song, I would love to dedicate this to all our mothers, especially everybody, all the mothers who are watching, who are in this webinar tonight. Advance Happy Mother's Day to you. So here is a wonderful song by Lucio San Pedro.
Sana'y di nagmaliw ang dating umaraw ng munti pang bata sa piling ni nanay. Nais kong maulit ang awit ni nanay. Awit ng pag-ibig habang ako'y nasa duyo. Sa aking pagtulog, lalabis ang himig. Ang bantay ko'y talang-talang ko'y bituin. Sa piling ni nanay, langit ay buhay. Puso kong may dusa, sabik sa umoy ng ulan. Ibig kong magulog sa dating duyan ko inay. Oh, inay.
Brava.
Advance
Thank you
Happy
very
Mother's
much.
Day.
Thank you very much, Lara. Lara,
Yes,
tell
sir.
us about you have a forthcoming concert. Tell us about it, please.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for letting me do this. I will have a concert on June 25 at 8 p.m. So all the concerts now, by the way, are online. So you can watch anywhere you are in the world. And this will be happening on the ktx.ph. So all you have to do is to go to ktx.ph and find my poster, Lara Maige, Queen of the Night. Ticket prices are only at $8.50. You can watch with your whole family that day, 8 p.m. PH time. So make sure to enjoy it with a nice drink, because it's a wonderful night of music, with from classical, like operatic songs, to standards and Broadway. So I hope to see you on June 25.
Thank you very much, Lara. And well, if we have time later, we will get Lara back here. If we have time after the Q&A. But with that, we turn over to our moderator, Senator Joey Lina, for the Q&A.
Yes.
Senator.
Well, first of all, thank you again, once again, DINKY, Secretary SOLIMAN, for your excellent presentation, especially on what citizens can do to help during this time. Maraming options, may menu of options that you presented, and that's very helpful. But I was really, well, some of the questions had already been answered by your presentation, so I will not ask them anymore. But there is this question about the conditional cash transfer, or the cash transfer, okay? It started with a small amount, about 1 billion or 2 billion initially, maybe 6 billion. It reached about 6 billion. Then it ballooned to 30 to 50, 60 billion. Magkano na yung conditional cash transfer ngayon sa pagkakaalam mo? sa budget for year 2021?
That one I don't know kung magkano, but let me say that what the people actually receive has not changed much. And the numbers grow because of the number of beneficiaries who are receiving it. So for the conditional cash transfer right now, as far as this one I'm sure about, you are only given for 3 children, and for those 3 children, you are given 300 pesos for children in elementary school and daycare, and 500 pesos for high school for as long as they attend 85% of the time in school. So that has not, and then they are given 500 pesos for going to health checkups. So that's, let's assume that you have one student who is in high school, so that's 500, and 500 for the health grant, and then you have 2 children in elementary, which is 300. So that's 1,600 per month, which is given every 2 months. That has not changed. What has changed is that from a start of when I came in, because this program was started by then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo under the leadership of then Secretary S.P. Cabral. There were 800,000 beneficiaries. By the time the Aquino administration finished, we were at 4.4 million beneficiaries, families. So that's the reason why it has grown. And as far as I understand what's going on now is they are doing a review, and there are families that have been graduated, and they are registering additional new families to, in a way, sort of replace those who have graduated.
Yung mga konsepto, Secretary Soliman, medyo halimbawa social protection or fiscal space or universal basic income, can we bring this down to the brass tacks? When you say universal basic income, ano ba talagang ibig sabihin nun para maintindihan na mas mabuti?
Yung universal basic income kasi, ang sinasabi noon, yun ang parang ideal situation kung gusto nating mapabilis ang pag-angat ng mga mahihirap ng sabay-sabay. Kasi itong universal basic income ay para sa lahat, cash-based and unconditional, walang kondisyon. Pero kailangan nakalagay or nakabatay sa ano ang basic cost of living. So kailangan magkaisa ang economic managers at saka ang social service managers. Ito ang halaga na kailangan mo para maging maginhawa ang buhay mo. Hindi mayaman, hindi mahirap, maginhawa. Nakakakain ka ng tama sa 3 beses isang araw, may bahay ka na napabayaran or nauupahan, meron kang kasiguraduhan sa pangangailangan mo sa kalusugan, at meron kang nagagastos para sa edukasyon. So yun yung basic na cost of living na sinasabi nila. Kailangan ngayon magkaroon ng pagkakaisa ang economic managers at yung social service managers. Ano yung floor na yon? Yun yung sinasabing floor. Ibig sabihin, pag wala kang ganong halaga, ikaw ay nasa ilalim na ng kahirapan. So yun yung una. Sa ngayon, wala tayong ganon dahil nga wala tayong maliwanag na pinagkaisahan pa bilang pamahalaan, unless that has changed, ng social protection floor. Nung paalis ako ng gobyerno, alam kong ginagawa namin yon, pero hindi ko po alam kung ito po ay naituloy. At importante kasi na yung social protection floor nakabatay din sa pangangailangan ng pagkain ng mga mamamayan at kung saan nila kinukuha yung pagkain. So, kaya ang parang nangyayari, as a transition phase, nagka-cash transfer ka sa iba't ibang modality or pamamaraan. So ano yon? Kunyari, ito ng pantawid is conditional cash transfer for education. Yung binibigay ngayon na ayuda sa mga tourist workers na nawalan at yung mga binigay sa mga drivers na nawalan ng trabaho, that's another kind of cash transfer which na ang binibigyan mong halaga ay yung nakawala nilang income gawa nitong pandemic. Kaya nga tawag doon ay social protection cash transfer. Meron ding ibang modality na imbis na cash ang binibigay, vouchers ang binibigay. Pero wala pa tayong karanasan sa pagkakaalam ko, hindi pa natin sinubukan yung voucher system dito unless nagkakamali ako na baka meron sinubukan na maliit na pamamaraan na ang voucher ay yun ang gagamitin mo pambayad sa pangangailangan mo sa pagkain. Alam kong ginawa yan nung ang simbahan ng Caritas together with the big business people, the Philippine Disaster and Resilience Group, nung first 2 months ng lockdown natin, namigay sila ng 1,000 pesos per family, pero voucher. At magagamit mo yon sa ilang piling mga supermarkets na kanilang kinausap na magagamit ng pamilya. So yun yung mga iba't ibang modelo na pwedeng tingnan. Sa kasalukuyan, ang meron tayo ay conditional cash transfer under Pantawid, yung social pension program para sa senior citizens, and then yung mga bagong ginawa nilang cash transfer dahil dito sa pandemic.
Okay. Sigurado ako lahat tayo na nag-a-attend itong webinar na ito ay naglalayon na talagang mabawasan ang kahirapan dito sa ating bansa. At kinakailangan talaga konkreto yung mga programa na dapat ipatupad ng gobyerno at matulungan ng pribadong sektor. Yung bang Universal Basic Income, Secretary DINKY, yan ba'y grant to be given or subsidy na ibibigay ng gobyerno? Sapagkat nung pinag-aaralan ko ito, sinabi ni Secretary Pernia, the former NEDA Secretary, for a family of 5 in the Philippines to enjoy or to be above the poverty line should have an income, combined income, family of 5, combined income of about 42,000 pesos. But we are using, at that time, the level of 10,000 pesos. So there's a very big gap between what Secretary Pernia said, and he was the head of NEDA then, and then what the government is using as the benchmark. Na if you are receiving about 10,000, then you are, or if you're receiving 10,000, you're no longer poor. Of course, nobody that raised a howl of protest, no? Because on the ground, you cannot, a family of 5 with 10,000 pesos, it will really be very difficult to survive. Ngayon, let me go back to the question. Assuming we're able to find a soft spot, no? That if you reach this level, you will no longer be poor. But where will the money come from? Because it's called universal basic income. Kung walang trabaho yung bang mga walang trabaho or yung income wala doon sa level na yon, pupunuan ba yan ng gobyerno para makaalis sila doon sa poverty level na yon?
Ang ibig sabihin kasi nung basic cost of living, yung minimum. So hindi ibig sabihin yun lang ang aasahan mo. Ibig sabihin, kailangan nagtatrabaho ka pa rin para umangat ka at maalis ka sa kahirapan. Hindi ibig sabihin na mag-aantay ka lang na ibigay yon. Kaya nga, the basic cost of living. And yun yung kailangang i-identify kung ano yung mga basic cost na yon na kailangan mong nasa iyo para ikaw ay magkaroon ng pagkakataong magtrabaho pa at madagdagan yung iyong kakayahan na umahon mula sa kahirapan. So to the question na ito ba ang magbibigay sa iyo ng pag-angat? Hindi. Ito yung magbibigay sa iyo ng kakayahan para umangat ka kasi yung basic cost na kailangan mong mabuhay ay natutugunan ng pamahalaan sa ngayon. And then may graduation, dapat may graduation portion. Parang sa 4Ps, may graduation portion para nang sa ganon. And sila lahat, alam nila, kahit yung bagong batas ngayon, 7 taon lang sila na nasa programa. By that time, kailangan nakaangat na or nakatapos na ng schooling. And kung hindi pa tapos sa schooling, may kakayahan na silang ipatuloy ang kanilang pag-aaral.
Okay. Para lalong makonect ng bawat isa kung ano yung conditional cash transfer at saka yung universal basic income na yung ibig mo sabihin yung talagang cost of living minimum na dapat covered ng bawat is that per family or per individual? I suppose it's per family.
Family.
Per family. Pantawid. Yung kaya nga Pantawid Pamilya Pilipino Program, 4Ps, is pantawid, meaning temporary. Sinusuportahan lamang yung mag-aral yung mga bata at maging healthy yung mother at saka yung matira ay pagkain ng pamilya. Talagang survival just for them to survive. But let me go back to the original question. Assuming ma-determine natin kung yung basic cost of living, yun ang tatapatan dapat, no? Kung ang pamilya ay way below, may gap between the income and the basic income requirement to meet the cost of living expense, ay sinong pupuno nun? Will government give subsidy to the family that has not achieved that minimum level of income?
Yun na yung basic, yun na yung UBI, yun yung ibibigay sa kanya. Pero kasabay nung pag-subsidy na yon ay yung pagbigay din ng kakayahan para magkaroon siya ng maayos na trabaho, dissenting trabaho. So in other words, hindi siya, we cannot look at, hindi natin pwedeng tingnan ang social protection and UBI lalo na independent of the other programs na tutulong para magkaroon ng maayos na buhay ang mga mamamayan. Kasama na doon ang pagsisigurado na merong dissenting trabaho na pwede silang pasukan, merong pwede silang bigyan ng training na pagkatapos ng training sila ay magkakaroon ng trabaho, pagsisigurado na yung edukasyon nila ay makakapagbigay ng kalidad na trabaho at hindi yung trabaho na magiging mababa ang sweldo. So magkakasabayaan na dapat ginagawa at pinagtutulungan ng iba't ibang sangay ng pamahalaan at ng private sector.
So it will be a whole government approach then, like
Definitely.
TESDA will provide the training for these families para equip them for livelihood or employment. The other agencies will have to come in. Even the DTI will have to come in, and you're familiar with some programs of the DTI together with the DSWD. But the objective is ma-meet ng family yung minimum basic requirements so that they can move higher. It doesn't mean na talagang subsidy all the time is subsidy. So I think that is clear. Marami na bang umangat nakagraduate dyan sa conditional cash transfer, meaning yung mga anak ay nag-graduate na ng high school kasi kinover na, kaya lumaki din ang budget, kinover na ng gobyerno hanggang high school, especially with the implementation of the K to 12, no? And ako, I'm a believer of the conditional cash transfer, especially if it is managed properly. But ito ay pansamantala. That's why it's pantawid. Anin pang damo kung patay na ang kabayo, no? So it's very important to see it in that light that it is only temporary, pansamantala lamang.
So
Okay.
sa tanong mo, Joey, marami na ba? Nung kami ay patapos na, at a minimum of 300,000 students graduated from high school. And na-monitor ko from the 300,000, more than 50% was able to go to college. And right now, nakakakuha pa rin ako ng mga snippets of information na yung mga nakatapos na sila, teacher na sila, ang karamihan ay, kasi merong naging programa na papasok sila under this program of CHED. They're either teachers or IT or agriculture. And I think a cohort of more than 5,000 had already graduated at that time. So merong umaangat na mga mamamayan at ang intindi ko more than 300,000 na ang kanilang ina-assess ngayon na graduate and moving out of the program. Ang importante kasi talaga na susundan, merong assessment ang DSWD on 3 levels of well-being: survival, subsistence, survival, and self-sufficiency. When they reach self-sufficiency, that means meron na silang kakayahan na makapagtrabaho at makapag-sustento ng isang bata sa papunta ng kolehiyo. And that's supposed to be done every year by the department to all who are part of the Pantawid Pamilya program. So I think ginagawa naman yata nila yon. So talagang it's a question of sabi nga dito sa chat na sa implementation ang crux of the matter, how you monitor and how you're able to make the program achieve its goals because you are actually hand-holding yung mga beneficiaries moving into the goal of independence.
Of course, kasabay ng pantawid yung training also of the parents of the children, no? Because they need to be trained, equip them so that they can also get some productive work and do not just depend on the 1,400 or 1,500 that is received by families in that program every month. And the philosophy is, at least if one person from that family becomes employed with a better paying job, then that is already the beginning of moving them out of the poverty level. Because kung wala nakapag-aral dun sa anak ng mahirap, wala talagang pag-asa na makaangat. I mean, that's the basic philosophy behind the conditional cash transfer. So, dadami pa ang makakasama dyan. Ngayon, may graduate dahil sa maraming naging mahirap. Kaya dapat ay tulungan pa ng gobyerno yung conditional cash transfer and make sure that walang leakage or hemorrhage of funds in that program. Okay. What can the youth do? Ito na. What can the youth do? To help combat poverty and also help the poor.
Ako ang mungkahi ko po sa mga kabataan natin ngayon, tatlong bagay. Una, pwede nga kayo yung mag-organize ng ano yung kaya ninyong organisahin na tutoring classes. Kasi ang laking bagay talaga yon dahil hindi talaga natututo ang mga bata ngayon magbasa at magsulat. So isang pwedeng gawin yun. Pangalawa, pwede talagang suportahan or tingnan kung paano pa nila mapapaunlad ang mga community pantries kung gusto nilang tumulong sa ganung paraan. At tingnan kung paano sila mag-volunteer. Kasi right now, ang nangyayari nga, dahil sa dami ng mga gustong tumulong na mga nagbibigay ng mga donasyon, yung pag-uorganisa lang, yung pag-re-repack at pagsisigurado na maayos yung mga ginagawang pamimigay. Kasi right now, imbis na kumuha ka na lang kung ano yung nandun, yung marami sa mga ating kababayan, nire-repack nila para yung nasa dulo ng linya, pareho pa rin yung makukuha. Kasi nagiging karanasan na kung maaga ka, nakakakuha ka ng marami, pagkatapos nun, ikaw yung nandun sa dulo, 2 sitaw na lang yung makukuha mo. So ang ginagawa ng iba, ipinapak na nila para pare-pareho naman yung makukuha. So the youth can help there. And third, I really think, ito importante, mag-organize kayo para mag-rehistro. Ang kinabukasan po ng ating bansa nasa kamay nyo. 7 million po kayong hindi nakarehistro mga bata. And I really think na kailangan nating magrehistro ang mga kabataan para kayo ang mag-decide saan natin dadalhin ang bansa. Saan natin dadalhin ang ating bayan. And kayo ang isang malaking decisive factor dyan kung rehistrado kayo. Kung hindi kayo rehistrado, pare-pareho na naman yung mga boboto, itong mga nasa harap yung mga matatanda na siguro yung mga matatanda may mga pangangailangan ng gisingin or mahirap ng gisingin, pero kayo may kinabukasan pang hinaharap. So mahalaga na magrehistro kayo para kayo ang magdesisyon kung saan tutungo ang bansa natin. So those would be my 3 suggestions sa mga kabataan.
Okay. Yes, before that, I was just computing, Secretary DINKY, kung 5 million yung total population na gustong iserve ng gobyerno under the conditional cash transfer, times 1,400 peso, halimbawa, yun ang bibigay, times 12, mga 84 billion pesos.
Mga ganun.
So I will not be surprised, baka 100 billion na ngayon. I'm not worried about the amount as long as it is spent wisely. But if properly managed, then that is one, although slow because it takes time, education takes time, but it's a definite solution to help bail out the poor families from poverty. So I think that is going to be a good continuing program of government, no? Plus some innovations like TESDA, making sure it's involved and equipping DSWD, equipping the parents so that they can do something to help themselves. Sabi ni Pinky Jurado, pero bago ko itanong ang tanong ni Pinky Jurado, may mga groups kasi gusto mag-donate. Di alam kanino i-donate. Pero mayroon ba listahan ng mga talagang may hirap sa mga barangay? Meron bang accredited list of trustworthy donors o community pantries and their contact persons? So, nasagot na tungkol sa community pantry, nasagot na ni Secretary DINKY. Pero yung listahan ng mga mahihirap sa bawat bayan, sa bawat barangay, meron na talagang listahan ang local governments through their Social Welfare Development Office. Kung na yan, institutionalized na yung listahan na yan. May problema once, here and there, minus or plus, but I can trust through the years, no, na yung conditional cash transfer, I think generally reliable, na audit na rin ng World Bank yan na maganda naman ang kanilang review, no? So marami pang tanong, kung may yung listahan nga ng mga may sakit, at saka mas madaling mag-donate kasi para bang namamana ka, hindi mo alam kung saan ka pupunta. But nabanggit mo, Patricia, noon meron silang coordination na ginagawa sa Ateneo, si Ateneo de Manila University, sa Tanging Yaman Foundation, they've been doing a lot of good work. Even the diocese have their own soup kitchen. Pwede kayo makipag-coordinate sa mga soup kitchen ng mga diocese. Alam mo na yung mga pare, hindi naman nanakawin yung lugaw na ibibigay ninyo doon. Talagang ang mga pumupunta sa kanila ay yung talagang gutom na. Hindi yung magluluto. Hindi pa yung iluluto. Hindi na yung iluluto. Talagang gusto na lang malagyan ng laman yung sikmura nila. Ito yung mga tao talagang hindi na walang pagkain, no? Hindi humihingi ng pangsahog o kaya pandagdag. Sila talaga walang. Kaya nandun na sila sa soup kitchen. So you can coordinate with the parishes. Wag kayong alis mga kasama, sapagkat napakaganda itong usapan natin ito. Although 2 hours lang nilagak natin dito. Pero entertain muna ulit tayo okay, Greg, you do the introduction.
Okay. We're fortunate to have for a second song ang ating guest soprano and songwriter. I'd like to call back for her second song, Miss Lara Maige. Lara, what will you sing for us?
I will be singing for you something for tonight's topic. If you are familiar with Ang Probinsyano, well, I think you are all familiar with that. This is my version of Wag Ka Nang Umiyak. And there's a line here that says, sabay tayong aahon. So, this is Wag Ka Nang Umiyak.
Wag ka nang umiyak sa mundong pabago-bago. Pag-ibig ko ay totoo. Ako ang iyong bangka. Kung magalit man ang alon ng panahon, sabay tayong aahon. Kung wala ka nang maintindihan, kung wala ka nang makapitan, kapit ka sa akin, kapit ka sa akin, hindi kita bibitawan. Huwag ka nang umiyak, mahaba man ang araw, uuwi ka sa yakap ko. Huwag mo na damdamin kung wala ako sa iyong tabi. Iiwan ko ang puso ko sa iyo. At kung pakiramdam mo'y wala ka ng katabi, isipin mo ako dahil puso't isip ko'y nasa iyong tabi. Kung wala ka na maintindihan, kung wala ka na makabitan, kapit ka sa akin, kapit ka sa akin, hindi kita kung wala ka na maintindihan, kung wala ka na makabitan, kapit ka sa akin, kapit ka sa akin, hindi kita binitawan, hindi kita mapapayaman, hindi kita Huwag ka nang umiyak.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the full Lara Maige June 25 concert on ktx.ph. Let us enjoy her in her concert on June 25. Maraming salamat, Lara.
Thank you very much.
May we have some pictures, photo op? Yes.
Hi, Miss Dinky. Hi, Dr. Johnny.
Direct Lori. Smile.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Lara. One of these days, can we do a duet, Lara? Matagal na ako hindi na ako
Hello, Joey.
Because
One of these days should be our next webinar.
Inahamon ka na, Joey.
Oh, joke only. Baka mag-aalisan yung ating mga participants. Okay. Very practical question ito, Secretary Dinky. Yung mga kabataan nga natin online, no? Hindi sila face to face. Organizing is quite difficult. You know, I'm teaching right now. I mean, during this semester, I've been doing this for the last several years. Pero isa sa estudyante ko ngayon may sakit ng COVID, no? So going out is a challenge. Well, not only for senior citizen like me, but even for young people, it's also a challenge, no? So what other suggestions can you give our young people, very inspired by your presentation, now very idealistic, want to help and all that? Aside from your suggestions there that you gave, what else can they do? I mean, basically they're online, so ano pang pwede nilang gawin?
I think one, because nga, as you said, our young people are digital natives now. I mean, they being in a Zoom, being in a TikTok, being in in all of these other platforms, Facebook, is so natural for them. Hindi sila kailangan turuan dahil they grew up with it. I think the challenge now to our young people is use these platforms to provide two things. One, let's flood social media with positive messages, with messages that uplift, with messages that collaborate, with messages that make people want to help one another, instead of fomenting, the echo chambers, putting out hate, putting out not so nice information about each other. Let's use it for positive things. And ano yung mga pwede niyong gawin doon? Pwede kayong mag-create ng fan group na, I know of fan groups who are in social media who are raising funds to help community pantries. Yung mga fans ng BTS, yung mga fans ng mga Korean pop stars, they're all coming together and raising funds between and among themselves so that they can help community pantries, all done digitally. Isa yon. Pangalawa, which I think is also very important, help in disseminating facts and do fact checks all the time. Parang ang nakikita ko mahalaga na kasi alam ninyo na ang marami sa atin umaasa sa social media na kumuha ng impormasyon. If you're not sure of what you've read or what is being given to you, do a fact check. Marami namang nagpa-fact check na ng mga organisasyon, and you can do that by just being in your Facebook, in your computer, because again, importante na mailabas natin ang katotohanan at hindi kung ano-ano yung mga hindi magandang yung mga false and fake information about the situation and about what's going on. So those are the two immediate things that I think that can be done, given the fact that we are still on semi-lockdown. But I think at this point, dadating talaga yung sitwasyon na which is really, to me, the other part of the situation of the young people now, taking care of each other and your mental health. Marami na po talagang mga kabataan ngayon na nagkakaroon ng mental distress and mental problems because of the stress of having no actual human interaction at this age na kailangan nila, meaning yung 12 years old to 18 years old. These are the times when they are socializing, but they can only socialize through the Zoom or the calls, and somehow that's not very good for their mental health. So again, to take care of each other, be more kind, be more aware of how you say what you want to say in social media, because sometimes what you say in social media stays, and that one can create an impact on the person whom you criticize or whom you actually said negative things about, that drives the person to depression, that drives the person to even worse situation. So I think that's another part that young people can really do. Help one another, be kind to one another so that you can take care of your mental health.
All right. There's a concrete suggestion here, Secretary Dinky. I would like to ask for your reaction. Well, young people are technology savvy. Magaling sila sa paggamit ng technology na ito, especially sa social media. May mga software that can organize data in a barangay. Yung barangay information management system, no? na magagawa kung ilan ng tao, ilan ng household, ilan ng pamilya. They can replicate the work of the Philippine Statistics Authority kung organized bawat barangay. And the young people can help in putting up this barangay information management system para merong accurate database ang bawat barangay. Kaya kung kailangan malaman ilan talagang walang trabaho, ilan ang nawalan ng trabaho, ilan ang naghahanap ng trabaho, it can be seen you can see it in the barangay database. Do you think that's a good suggestion that all 42,000 barangays will have a barangay information management system ably assisted by the young people in those barangays?
I think it's a very good idea, and actually nasubukan namin yan nung aming CSO collaboration. Yung mga millennials na katrabaho namin, tinatawagan lang yung barangay para tanungin kung anong ayuda na yung kanilang nakuha, and they were able to get information. But itong idea na ito is even more powerful, because if it is based in the barangay and they're able to work out this information system, that really will solve 100% of the problem of targeting. Kasi sila na yung pwedeng mag-validate kung yung listahan ng City Social Welfare and Development Office and or Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office is still updated, or they can help in the updating of that list. So that's a very good, I support that completely, and that would be really good if that can be done.
Okay, maybe tonight will be the beginning of this movement of young people to help their barangays put up a barangay information management system. Maybe the young people here can take up the cudgels for that particular project. You know, the connected yung barangay. Sabi ni Mrs. Pinky, connected yung barangay database sa accredited list ng Talagampur. Yes, precisely. The young people will help, put up a barangay information that is reliable, ano?
Nakalagay, pwede nilang ilagay, Joey, yung sino yung merong persons with disability, sino yung mga senior citizens, sino yung mga merong buntis, ilan yung merong babies. And madali yun dahil taga dun sila eh.
Meron na, nakita ko na yung data sheet na dapat i-fill up. Yun lang encode doon sa program na yan. So that's a good suggestion coming from our participants. Ito, very particular. Do we give alms directly on the street as private individual?
Yung mga nanglilimos at this point.
Anong say mo doon?
Usually, I would discourage it. Dahil nga ang nangyayari, lalong-lalo na yung mga bata ang nagpupunta at masasagasaan talaga sila pagka sila ay tuloy-tuloy na namamalimos sa daan. Kaya ang sinasabi ko nga na mas maganda na kung gusto niyong tumulong, makipag-ugnayan sa mga simbahan o sa NGOs na nagtatrabaho. And yung mga namamalimos, ang problema lang talaga ngayon, kaya hindi ko I can see why we can be a little bit more flexible. Because nga wala silang trabaho ngayon. So wala kang magagawa. I can see the jeepney drivers. I live in Quezon City. Nakaano sila, nanghihingi talaga dahil wala silang maasahan, dahil wala ngang pasahero, dahil walang sarado ang UP, halimbawa. So it's a very ayaw mong magbigay sa daan, pero sa ngayong sitwasyon wala kang magawa kung hindi magbigay muna. Pero on ordinary times when we're not in a pandemic situation, I would discourage it kasi nga ang mga bata ang ginagamit nilang panghingi ng limos, and yung mga bata unang-una maaaring masagasaan, pangalawa nalalanghap lahat yung gasolina ng it's not good for the children. So yun yung aking nakikitang disadvantage.
Is it possible to help the poor when we ourselves are poor?
Alam nyo, ang sagot ko po dyan, wala pong taong mahirap na walang maibibigay. At wala pong taong mayaman na hindi nangangailangan. Meron pong pangangailangan ang mayaman, at merong maibibigay ang mahirap. Alam mo ninyo, meron ho akong alam na mga communities dito sa Slip Zero at Tondo. Ang ginagawa po nila, this is part of the group I'm working with, yung mga tira sa Divisoria, kinukuha nila, tapos noon kanilang nililinisan, and then yun ang kanilang pinamimigay sa community pantry. Kahit na papano, meron kang gulay na naisasahog dun sa lugaw mo. And sila yung nagtutulungan. Sa Montalban, sa resettlement site, ang nagtutulungan, sila din, ang ginagawa nila, meron silang tinanim na mga gabi, mga ganon, pinagtitinda nila, and they have been cooking for the last 3 weeks, supporting yung mga wala na talagang makain ng mga bahay dahil nga nawala ng trabaho. So, meron kang mabibigay kahit ikaw ay mahirap. Meron ako nakita sa Facebook, yung bata, kumuha ko ng 2 biskwit doon sa pantry na nadaanan niya. Binigyan siya ng biskwit. After a while, tumatakbo siya, bumalik. Ang dala-dala niya, isang bunch ng malunggay, ginuha niya siguro doon sa kanilang garden. At yun naman ang pampalit niya doon sa biskwit. So, merong maibibigay po ang mga mahihirap.
Okay. You have been involved working with this. You have been working with the PBSP and the others, no? Yung mga tulong puhunan or dagdag puhunan. Paano ma-access ng ating mga listeners yung mga ganyang programa? Sino kaya ang pwede ma-contact? Kasi very concrete na yung kanilang hinihinging tulong din or yung tanong para matulungan nila yung mga tao sa kanilang komunidad.
Yung ang pwede natin gawin, binigay ko po yung I think I can give you in my here in the chat my email, and pwede ko po kayong i-direct sa Philippine Business for Social Progress or sa Sea Oil Foundation, kung sino yung mga foundations na gusto ninyong makontak through the secretariat that we have. The secretariat that we have is Kat, Doresca, and Simon. They also were the ones who helped me put out the information. So this is my email.
Okay. Hintayin natin yung email ni Secretary Dinky. Babahain ka ng messages, Secretary. But
okay,
that's part of your, that's part of your service. Isang tanong na lang kasi talagang we are very conscious about time. We will end this at 9. Paano kaya matulungan yung pagpasa ng ayuda ng Bayanihan 3? Would you want us to lobby with the Congress and for them to pass the Bayanihan 3, which will also include a set of ayuda to the poor in our country?
Oh yes, Joey. I really think that it's important na mag-lobby tayo sa House at saka sa Senate. Dahil pareho nilang pinag-uusapan pa. As you know, they're in recess. Kaya gusto sanang kaagad mapag-usapan dahil alam natin na at the rate things are going, meaning the pasok ng vaccines, yung contact tracing, nasa 7,000 pa rin yata tayo kahapon, matagal pa ito. Hindi po ito matatapos kaagad. At dahil doon, kailangan talagang merong Bayanihan 3 na ilabas. So if you can talk to your Congress people, to the senators that you know, that would be a big help to really make them see how important it is to pass this bill.
Well, maraming salamat sa iyo, Secretary Dinky. Yung iba pong mga tanong hindi ko na itatanong sapagkat in the presentation nasagot na rin naman ni Secretary Dinky Soliman. Yung mga short term pinakita sa atin ni Secretary Dinky yung mga immediate or short term programs, what we can do now to help the poor. There is a menu of options. Merong short term passage of the Bayanihan 3, yung strengthening the conditional cash transfer at saka yung universal basic income na sinabi niya. And also in the presentation, pinaliwanag niya, there will have to be some structural changes to make sure that the economy will grow and the fruits of development are equally shared so that everybody is part of the growth and development of our country. Like what we do in agriculture, helping the farmers, helping the laborers, because if we just rely on the way things are being done, like Einstein's statement, if you keep doing the same thing all over again, it will be stupid to expect a different result. So we have to, this is what we have been discussing, ladies and gentlemen, in our webinar. That's why we discussed the agriculture, food security, helping the farmers first. We will discuss rapid industrialization. We will have the DTI people to present to us what the country needs to do to rapidly industrialize so we become more competitive and increase productivity of our people. And also on energy, we will have a webinar on energy because that will help us attract foreign investments. We will also have a webinar on further improving our system in easing on business procedures, on ease of doing business. All of these are needed to really spur development in our country, have more investments, but always with equity. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Secretary Dinky. Palakpakan po natin si Secretary Dinky Soliman. Gamitin niyo yung inyong reactions. Ako, teki na rin ako. Ayan, no? Marami ako. May heart pa. May heart. At saka merong, hindi yung lumuluha. Hindi. Ayan. Maraming salamat. Palakpakan po natin si Secretary Dinky Soliman.
Maraming salamat din po. Thank you, Soul Philippines.
Okay. And Greg, let's have a photo of all. Greg, you're on mute.
Yes, kayo muna. Senator, kayong dalawa muna ni Secretary.
Okay, former colleague in the cabinet.
Smile.
Okay, everybody na. Everybody.
On yung mga cameras.
Could you please turn on your cameras, your video?
Yeah.
Para kasama kayo sa class picture. Ayan. You want to look straight into your camera? Okay, Direct Lori.
One more.
Smile.
All right.
Okay, so please register now for the next webinar. Very interesting, internet, no? Naku, lahat tayo may reklamo tungkol sa internet, no? The guru himself, the former DICT Secretary Eliseo Rio, is an excellent guy. He knows what the IT, all about IT, and he will present very practical solutions to the problem of connectivity. Yeah, si Secretary Eliseo Rio, then workers welfare, Secretary Ruben Torres, social media, how truth will prevail in social media, and then how to make sure elections will be honest and orderly. Then Architect Palafox on housing the poor and urban development, and leadership. What is leadership? what are the components or competencies that we have to look for when we choose leaders? We have to concretize. Ano ba talaga yung competence ng presidente? Ano yung competence na kailangan ng vice? Aside from character, commitment, charisma, and other C's. There are 5 C's of leadership. So, malapit ng election 2022, so we have to discuss this. And then micro, small, and medium enterprises, we will have another talk on that. And then we will have Industry 4.0 or rapid industrialization, national defense, and foreign relations. Then we'll have water, energy, mass transport, and infrastructure, and then public-private partnership and finance. So there are others that will be organized in the future. So be part of the SoulPH community, and we will inform you ahead. We will improve the communication system so you are informed ahead of the schedule of the webinars. Maraming salamat. Greg, take it away.
Thank you, Senator. At meron tayong 3 importanteng announcement. The first, yes, meron tayong e-certificate. Ihanda na nyo yung scanner nyo at cellphone. Lamaya lang lalabas yan. Ito na. Ito na. Tapatan na nyo to. And we'll leave it for a few seconds. And then mamaya, pagkatapos ng closing prayer, ibabalik natin yan. We also have good news because right now, you can register for next week's webinar. Internet for all. Why not Internet for all now na? So that is forthcoming. Ayan, ito na. I-scan na nyo to, diretso na kayo sa registration. Alright? And the third announcement is, starting next week, meron po tayong mga iraraffle na concert tickets. So you want to participate also. Ha?
Yes.
Except yung organizer, hindi nakasali. Hindi nakasali organizer. Yung mga audience lang talaga. Lalo na yung mga suki. So you want to participate by scanning now. Naka-register na kayo for next week where we will be having concert ticket raffle. With that, we would like to conclude and thank all our strategic partners once again. And I turn over for the closing prayer si Brother Lito Pardo. And after the closing prayer, ibabalik natin itong mga QR code. Brother Lito?
Okay. Thank you, Brother Greg. In the light of the enormous problems that confront us as a people, let me tweak our closing prayer tonight. Hopefully, we will all be challenged to trigger our reset button to a new way of life, to a new normal. Allow me to read the prayer of Sir Francis Drake. Disturb us, Lord, when we are too well pleased with ourselves, when our dreams have come true, because we have dreamed so little, when we arrive safely, because we sailed too close to the shore. Disturb us, Lord, when with the abundance of things we possess, we have lost our thirst for the waters of life. Having fallen in love with life, we have ceased to dream of eternity. And in our efforts to build a new earth, we have allowed our vision of the new heaven to dim. Disturb us, Lord, to dare more boldly, to venture on wider seas, where storms will show your mastery, where losing sight of land, we shall find the stars. We ask you to push back the horizons of our hopes and to push into the future strength, courage, hope, and love. Amen.
Maraming salamat po for participating at pagkatapos nito, ibabalik po natin yung mga QR code for the e-certificate and for the registration for the next webinar. Maraming salamat po and God bless us all.
Salamat. Thank you very much, Secretary Dinky.
Thank you, Secretary Dinky.
Thank you.
Senator Lina, thank you.
Senator Lina, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, babalik natin yung QR codes. So be ready with your cell phones and scanners. Ilalabas natin yung mga QR code. Ito na ang e-certificate, please. Go get it. Yung how to scan, i-on mo yung scanner mo, tapos itatapat nyo rito doon sa QR code. That's how you scan it with your phone. Gagamitin nyo doon sa QR code. Oh.
Yung registration din.
Why don't we put it both side by side? Certificate, pati yung registration. Itapat mo na, kahit na i-mute mo na ako sa video.